Hello and welcome to the Girldharma podcast. Uh, Today is a filler episode, but it's not the kind that you skip. I've had a lot of days that were filler episodes, so to say. I actually saw a meme, and that's what I thought was really funny. I saw a meme, and I'll post it like here or something. I saw a meme that said, "Today is a filler episode," and I've had a lot of days lately that have felt that way. There's been some heavy emotions, and part of it could be my menstrual cycle coming up. Part of it could be the recent eclipse. Part of it could be that I've been I don't know. I don't want to get too much into that. There's been a lot going on in the political sphere of the country I live in. Um, and I've never been one to shy away from sharing my morals. Um, I will say it's been really weighing on me to be faced with the burden of educating other people on why things actually aren't from love. Why that's actually extremely hurtful and hateful. And I try to not be another angry voice yelling at these people I care about to get them to agree with me. And so that's just another thing that's been very draining. Very, very draining as of late. Mm, and I'm gonna save the details of that for a later episode when I feel like I have the emotional and mental capacity to keep pouring into that. And also when I have the words to be able to very clearly get my point across. But what I'm saying is that I've had quite a few days that have just felt like there were no peak moments. Nothing happened. Um, and I feel like I'm finally coming out on the other side where I'm like, actually, today's gonna be a good day because I decided it's gonna be a good day. Back when I had this like little blue HP laptop, I made it my wallpaper. It was a little doodle of a girl under a rainbow, or sorry, of a little drawing of a girl under an umbrella and a rainstorm, and maybe she was with a duck. And it said, every day might not be a good day, but there is something good in every day. And you know me, I love my quotes, so, I'm reminding myself to find the good, but I do also want to stay consistent on the things that feel good to me, like recording a new episode of Girl Dharma. So, yeah, that was a little bit of a long intro today. But I hope you give it a listen, and I hope you enjoy. Bitter, bitter, bitter. Ooh, that coffee is bitter today. My name is Christina, and I kind of wanted to use this time to reintroduce myself. Hello. Um, Partly because I just this past month have gotten back into making new episodes. I said I wanted to commit to 108 episodes, and then after about episode, what was it, 5, I was kind of like, oh, I missed it. Oh, I missed another. You know what? I'm just gonna stop for now. I just felt overwhelmed because I realized I don't have to try to do all the things at once. I could just prioritize one thing that feels really good for me. And for a little bit of time, that was just my YouTube channel and going on my walks and bringing out my camcorder. Where the heck is that? I don't know where it's at right now, but my camcorder, I love my camcorder. And as I'm getting more comfortable with all of that, and feeling a little more like on a schedule, I was like, post the artist way. I was like, you know what? I would love to incorporate more episodes of the podcast because those were so healing for me. So that's how we got here today. Um, yeah. So what is girl dharma? Girl dharma is a compound word. So I came up with the name Girl Dharma. I thought, so clever. Wow, she is pretty and smart and clever. Yeah, right around the time when everything was so girl dinner. Everything was girl dinner and they're so baby girl and I don't I didn't love things like that, but I I love the like just girl math. Math was girl. I just I was like, it just felt right. Girl Dharma. I am a Dharma student. Um, I I thought I'm doing all this work with my inner child and I'm looking back at girlhood and like I can almost in some moments of clarity even see that young girl, little Christina, as my wisest teacher. And so it felt good. Girl Dharma 108 felt even better. I made that my YouTube or I made that my Instagram handle for a little bit until I started getting cyber stalked or whatever from high schoolers that I used to work with. And so I was like, make everything private, change your username. And so I did. But I stood with Girl Dharma as a handle, not as a handle name, but as a title. Like I love, sorry, my screen went black. I love the idea of Girl Dharma. Um, so that's where the name came from. Dharma, I see Dharma as um, teachings, as lessons you learn, lessons you learn. Um, there's Dharma in everyday life. And so Dharma is one of those words that have always felt very like good and whole to me and holy even. Good, whole, and holy. Holy Holy, not I don't I don't know. Wholesome and holy. I don't know. I'll have to I'll have to figure out what I'm trying to say here while I edit. And I might have mentioned this in one of my webcam diaries on my main YouTube channel, but I've wanted for so long to make a podcast for years actually. I I wanted to create a podcast with a good friend of mine, Tiv. Um, and I don't want to say much about what the title of it was or what the topics and the ideas were because I still feel like that could happen. I feel very, very much in my heart that that is still a possibility. Um, and this, I guess, was a way to get comfortable talking again. I had for so long kind of isolated myself from community and isolated myself from friends and like, oh, I didn't respond to this message. Um, is it too long? Like, has too much time passed before I can respond to you again? Like, is it going to be awkward or like maybe I just, you know what? I'm just gonna stop messaging. I was the flaky friend. I was the inconsistent friend. I and it didn't feel good. I didn't feel good. Um, it like really would eat me up, and I feel a lot of guilt about it. And so um, again, for years, I really wanted to do this podcast, and I had moved somewhere where the local library had a podcast room you could rent out, and you can record your podcast and stuff there, and you can use their tools to edit, and they would give you classes on all these things and stuff. As long as you had a library card, you could do all those things, and I was like, I feel so called to do this. And there are so many times in my life where I feel so called to do something and it feels good creatively and I feel like almost rejuvenated creatively, you know? And then my whole life falls apart after that. I was living with a family member at the time. They were like, "Yeah, come move to Illinois and like, yeah, you can stay with us." And all of these like really like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." And we get there and it's one of the scariest situations I've probably ever been in my life. Not a loving environment. It was not a supportive environment. It was always like holding something over your head and like, you owe me this. Like, no, you have to come spend time with me when I text you because you owe me this. Oh, you have to eat dinner with us. Like, you have to pay us for half of the amount of food we bought, but I know you can't eat this. You still owe us half the money for us, which is crazy. Um, and like, why did you want to move my cat off the chair so that you can sit down and eat? Sit on the floor. This is my cat's house. Like, there was a lot of deep sadness within me just living there, and I felt like, wow, I'm being so incredibly tested. Like, and I can see the dharma in this, and I can I can almost be godly and be patient to be kind. And every step of the way, these people were they like I think I hate to say that anyone wants to harm someone else, but I think they liked making us uncomfortable in that sense. Um, and they it, like okay, you think I mean and what? And what? You know, like whoa. Uh, it's so funny to think about because these are like very similar topics to what I would talk about when I first started Girl Dharma. Long story short, no, long story, making it a little longer now. Um, that was an incredibly emotionally and mentally and verbally, hmm, I'm gonna omit a word right there, but it was that kind of situation. It was, I couldn't even give you a sliver of how it felt to be there. And I think the most disheartening is I convinced myself, see, this proves I'm like not meant to be a creative person. Like, because every time I have these like creative ideas and like I'm like drawn to these things in a very creative and artistic sense of like, I think I can share something. I think I can share a part of myself that's very, very, very honest and very raw. And I can do it and express myself in this way artistically. Something happens where I'm like, I leave this space and I'm like, that podcast is the last thing on my mind right now. And so, um, I think I let that dream die a little bit, a little bit. I mean, maybe it's on life support, but I stopped responding to my friend about getting together and making these calls and and working on this project together. And then I gave up on the dream for a long time. Maybe another year I gave up on it because now it became like, well, I don't have the tools to do it. Like I need this, this, and this before I can start making my podcast. Um, and I think I really believe that. I think I believed that for a long time. So I let that dream kind of get left behind in the rearview mirror. I mean, it's like the same thing. It's like once I went through all of that, everything I to had to go through, um, I don't know that I was a, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger kind of person during it, but after the fact, I'm like, I am never, ever again going to tell someone who is struggling that you should meditate. Have you tried meditating? It will change your life for the better. Because you know what? If I'm struggling for my basic needs to be met, the last thing on my mind is taking 30 minutes, taking 10 minutes to sit down in silence with my eyes closed when, like, this needs to be taken care of. I need to take care of my cats. I need to find a job. I need to do this. And I don't have a space where I feel safe. And I don't have a space where I even have like spaces myself to be, I felt incredibly overwhelmed by the whole ordeal. Um, so that's what it kind of reminds me of. It's like that was the last thing on my mind. Like being a creative person out the window. Doing this thing that I've wanted to do for years, this Artist Way project, out of the window. And same with like building friendships with people, building community. All of these things kind of went out the window as soon as I was put in a situation where I felt unsafe and uncared for by a family member who I I guess there was always signs, right? There was always signs that like people tell you exactly who they are. Um, and sometimes you're like, no, they're just joking. They're just joking. Like, no, they're being honest and you don't want to believe it because you're like, well, there's still that like younger sister in there. There's still that person who I saw cry on that couch about this. Who knows? I don't know if those were even the truth, but time has passed. I was able to trust and really lean on and gratefully, gratefully, gratefully rely on other family members and friends following that. And part of me was embarrassed to share my story of what happened. And other parts of me were worried I'd hurt more people in the process because I understand that talking about how I had this falling out with someone in my family puts my other family members in a uncomfortable situation where they don't want to pick sides. It's like I'm not asking you to pick sides. I'm asking you to see that that was really not good place to be, and I would never want you in that situation. Why didn't you step in and stop it for me? And thankfully, I was able to really rely on family and friends in the time that followed. You're like, Christina, you're talking about a podcast. What are you going on about now? It's just that every time I like will tell myself, like, this is everything's aligning and I feel so good and like this is what I'm meant to do. Something happens and it leaves me in a really, really not good situation, mentally and emotionally and sometimes even physically. And I'm like, you are so stupid. Why did you think you would be able to do that? Like, why did you think things were just gonna work out for you? And it's taken some work and it's taken some healing and it's taken a lot of journaling about it. And I do remember one day writing in my journal, I love, and I forgive. And I think that was the moment when I truly started to forgive this person for what they did. And I'd said time and time again that I wanted to forgive them. But then there was always this part of me that really, like, but they did this to you. But like, they they've always been this way. Why did you think they wouldn't be this way towards you? Like just because they said they care about you? Because they would occasionally message you? Because they would loan you money to move and then dangle it over your head? Like there's always signs. I mean, people tell you who they are and I can love you for from a distance. I can love you from a distance. And I forgive. Yes. Like I don't think it's a matter of having to earn my forgiveness. I think it's my forgiveness isn't for that person. My forgiveness is for myself. It would truly, like, it made me turn on other people who weren't standing up for me. Like, and they would say they didn't want to be a part of it. And, like, I don't want to get in between whatever sibling fight is happening. But to me, it felt more like you took a side when you just decided to not speak up for me. That was you taking your side. So my holding a grudge for this person and for their I'm not gonna put that part in. From yep. My forgiveness for them was for me. I didn't want to think, and I guess I still don't want to think that these other people who say they love me aren't are going to continue not standing up for me. They're gonna keep letting this happen until it happens to themselves. And I don't want to think of any of these people this way. I want to at least believe that in their hearts they know what happened was wrong and it's it's hard to be caught between two people you love and I never want to be one of those people that's pulling that tug of war rope trying to get them to side with me. So for the sake of my own well-being and for the sake of the love and the care I held in my heart for everyone else, um, that was affected by it. I chose to forgive them and I chose to forgive them wholeheartedly. Um, and funny enough, it's not something I even think about anymore. So even talking about it in today's episode is kind of like it's kind of bringing up a lot of emotions because I don't know, I have to be honest with myself about my feelings towards this person who created this very scary environment for me, this person who lied to their SO about me being there, you know, like this person who tried to pin other people against me by lying and like what game. Um, I think I have a lot of emotions wrapped up in it because I used to be at a very young age the quiet one, right? Like I didn't want anyone to get in trouble. We lived in an apartment in the city, and I remember not wanting my siblings to ever get in trouble when we were younger, and I would feel like like I was like always watching out for them. I was like and I know when I started to incorporate a lot of like inner child healing, um, which I guess was the core parts of this podcast when I first started, is it was a lot of how would younger Christina look at the situation? And I knew how she would look at it. And I know she was sweet and I know she was caring. And she'd be like, well, she's a mean sister, but you know what? She's nice sometimes. You have fun when you hang out with her and you play and and even at a young age, I like you like know who people are and you still want the best for them, right? Little Christina would be gutted, I think, to find out that she doesn't talk to one of her younger siblings because of how they treated her. Little Christina would be like, but she's always been that way. Like she doesn't mean anything by it. No, 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 I promise. And I think she'd be playing what she thought was dev, devil's advocate. Sorry, I forgot the word for a second. Um, but I don't ever want to feel like I have to play devil's advocate. I want to play angel's advocate. I want to see the best in people and I want to love everyone just because it feels good. But loving everyone doesn't mean you make excuses for how they behave, right? There is also such thing called tough love where I'm like, "Hey, love you." That was kind of messed up, right? Okay, no, like I'm just letting you know how I felt so that you don't do that again. I'll give you a warning if you need it, but you only get two warnings before I cut you off. Um, and so sometimes the conversations between little Christina and adult Christina are very like, this is adult business. Stay out of it. When really I do more and more want to be seeing her as one of my wisest teachers. I really do. And so, I mean, a lot happened in between when I planted the seed of this idea of like, I would love to have a podcast. That would be so fun. And a lot happened between planting that seed and watching this idea blossom, right? I'm I started it. I I went through and I did a few episodes and I really, really allowed myself to be real and raw and vulnerable. And I healed a lot through it. Um, and then there were times where I was like, oh, I forgot I have this plant. Uh, and I let the leaves get a little crispy. I let the soil get a little dry. And eventually I just forgot about it. Um, the plant being the podcast, of course. Um, and then eventually I was like, you know what? Remember how good that felt? Remember how healing that felt? I would love to feel that again. And so when I first started the podcast, actually, funny enough, remember how previously I was like, well, I can't do a podcast now. I don't have the equipment. Well, funny enough, when I started this podcast, I had this microphone, which is Tim's old microphone for when he used to do like gaming stuff. And I would plug it into my iPad, and that, and I would run out of space all the time, and trying to save it and download it and edit iMovie on an iPad was like, it was a lot. It was really hard. It was definitely a work of the heart. Like I had to really think, wow, I'm sharing something that is going to be healing for me. And because of how much work it was, to be honest, there are a couple episodes where they never seen the light of day. And some of the topics were very heavy for me. And so I don't know, maybe one day I will give them a listen and I'll see if they still align with what I'm willing to share, or maybe it'll be nice just to look back and be like, remember when I said I was fearful of this happening in my life? I got past that, you know? I really don't know, but it started with an iPad and a vision. I had a vision for this, a vision to heal, a vision to find a gentle lens and forgiveness through the wisdom of my inner child, myself, one of my higher beings, I believe. And then yeah, so recently I was like, I finished Artist Way and I would really, like, I felt so good. And that was one of my, yeah, finished the Artist Way. So what's next? Like, if you could do anything to stay creative and stay accountable and stay like in touch with your inner child, what would you do? It would be the Girl Dharma podcast. It would be showing back up for myself, showing back up for myself, giving myself the time and space to work on things happening in my life now, piece together pieces of things that piece together things that happen through the many years of girlhood and adolescenthood and adulthood, you know. And so that's why I was at the beginning of September. It might have been the beginning of September I came back. So this month. And I'm so grateful that I did. I decided to show up again and start watering that podcast dream seed. And I started to make sure it got the right amount of sun and the right amount of love. And I've invited friends along the way. Actually, one of my favorite episodes so far is last week's. I had Delaney on, who very, very kind, very, very wise, uh, younger person who I thought, wow, I see a lot of me in you, but I see it with gentler eyes, and I see it in like a, why can't you do it? Like, why not, you know? As to where when I had these ideas and dreams, I was kind of like, okay, but don't tell anyone unless you become very successful at it. And I have other friends I'm in the talks with about having them on the pod, and it just, I think they see how proud I am of the work I'm doing here, and it's definitely a work of the heart. And to have other friends who are like, actually, I do want to be a part of that. Yeah, um, we could talk about this, or I like this idea, you know. Friends who have helped me grow, friends who have helped support me in community, um, friends that who friends who are creative alongside me. Like, I'm excited for the many more buds that blossom through this. And I do hope I continue to remind myself the ways I've grown from this type of art, this type of creation, this type of sharing, because it's healing. Rue channeling my inner child, um, which I will say there is a very specific image of myself that I see that and I'm like, ah, little Christina, that's the girl dharma. That is the highest version of myself. That's the teacher, you know. I think through dissecting the parts of me at that age that I idolized, that I thought, wow, that was her, you know. I start to find patterns. I start to see parallels between the third grader who moved to a new town and the 20-year-old who moved across the country, the 9-year-old who fought to be a part of every friendship she was in. She sees and honors the 19-year-old version of me who stepped away from those friendships. She honors and sees the 28-year-old version of me who found community again. It's been a very interesting way to do the work, but it's the work that helps me. I should maybe also just start going to therapy. I think being more in tune with my inner child also helps me be more in tune to my creative self. I'm hmm, I'm trying to think of how I would introduce myself, you know? Like, hello, my name is Christina Angel. I'm a creative. I'm a person who loves to create art and who loves to document their life with a camcorder. And yeah, check out my YouTube channel. I've learned to really create art in a way that is very honoring to little Christina. I loved all these colors and I loved it to be funky. And there was like, kind of like, do you remember Groovy Girl dolls? I think that's what they were called. They were by the Jellycat brand. I never had one, but my older sister Diana did, and I remember going, I'm so jealous of you because that's who I wanted to grow up to be. Not Diana. Sorry. Sorry, Diana. No, a groovy girl doll. I thought like, wow, the vibes immaculate. Um maybe I should buy myself one now. Hmm. Maybe I'll find one on eBay or something. But I do see parallels between the more I am in tune with my inner child, the more I'm in tune with my inner artist. I I'm more in tune with my creative and artistic side, and a big takeaway I actually took from the artist way, which a huge part of my personality. Sorry, not sorry. You're gonna hear about it a lot because you know what? I'm so proud of myself for completing it. The artist way is a 12-week um intensely dedicated art workbook type situation. Um, I guess almost 13 weeks because you have week 0, uh, the work you do before you start the work. And then the other 12 weeks are read these testimonials in this chapter, and then do all these tasks. And don't forget to go on an artist date every week. Oh, and don't forget to do these daily journaling pages, 3 whole pages, and yeah, do them right when you wake up. And it was like, it just felt like I'm adding so much to my to-do list, but I've heard such great things about it. I tried 3 previous times over the course of a few years, uh, starting in maybe 2020, 2019, 2020, I think. New Year's 2020, I was like, this is it. I'm finally going to actually start this because even before then, I thought about dabbling in it, you know? I had the book, and every time I would get past, at the most, week 2, and I'd be like, "This is actually a lot of work." And it wasn't until this time around, which I've already tried a couple times this year, um, a few times after the first few tries this year alone, I had a friend who was like, I have always wanted to do the artist way. I would love to work alongside you and do the artist way. And I was like, that's what I need. I need someone to keep me accountable. And it grew our friendship. It really grew our bond with each other. I love this friend so incredibly dearly. Like, um, and it's someone I've always had a lot of and it's someone I've always had a lot of love for, but a lot of love from a distance. I've always had a lot of love from a distance. It was just, it's hard to keep in touch with people as an adult. So I thought. But the artist way was such a, I, it's one of those things that I am just like, still, I did that. I finished that. And so many people finish it. So many people do it. And not nearly half of them are as obnoxious about it as me, but that is like who I am at my core now. I am a certified meditation teacher. I'm a person who likes to make YouTube videos, and I finished the artist's way, completed the artist's way. It's going to be on every bio, every resume, completed the artist's way. Now you know I'm dedicated. um, yeah. So, like I was saying, I see a lot of parallels between keeping in touch with my inner child and keeping in touch with my inner artist. And part of that is actually a big part of that is thanks to the artist way, I think. I started this year, 2025, cold turkey, no social media. I was like, I I feel so icky about short form media, short form social media. I can scroll a million videos in an hour and I don't feel like I've learned anything. I don't feel like I've gained anything from it. And so I'm gonna take a break. And when I took this break, I think I was a couple weeks in and I was like, I this is embarrassing, but I think I'm having withdrawals. I think I was like actually addicted to social media, which I thought was, oh my gosh, there's no one else who probably feels this way, but how would you know? Like how many people have just stopped? I was so bored all the time. Q starting up the podcast, Q starting back up on YouTube, which my YouTube is a way that I honor a younger version of myself as well because I'm so badly wanted to create content for YouTube and it was always like if money wasn't an obstacle and you can do whatever you want, what would you do? I would buy a camera, I would travel, I would make my videos, little family videos, little home videos, and I would post them and edit them on YouTube. I would do all of that and that would be my life. Well, that's always been the dream. And when I first started YouTube, I was mimicking what I thought worked for other people. So I was like, I'm gonna be the next Emma Chamberlain. I love Emma Chamberlain. It's like I'm gonna be the next Emma Chamberlain. I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, yada yada. Um, and it didn't feel authentic. And even when I was so bored, I was like, maybe I should go back into video editing. That used to be fun at least, you know? And I was starting to edit my brother's videos for him again. I edited a couple of videos for my older sister who both of their content I love. I'm those are my favorite YouTubers, you know? I was like, I think I want to start making my videos again. Like, what are your thoughts? Like, And it was fun. It really cured that boredom. It was like a way to practice creativity. But when I jumped back in, I was like, well, this is all I know, being performative on this platform. This is what used to really go off in 2017. So I'm gonna do this. And by really go off, I mean 2 likes. So yeah. Uh, and then I wanted to commit until my birthday. I was like, I'm gonna start my new year of life, the last year of my 20s, not being addicted to social media. That is my goal. Well, so I wanted to go all of January, February, and most of March. On the anniversary of uh, my youngest sister's passing, I also lost a friend. And I was primarily off social media, so getting that text, I was on the floor. I was shaking and I was sobbing, and I had spent the last few years pushing community away. Um, and so it really hit me right in the heart. It was like one of the kindest, most understanding people, most artistically authentic and genuine to who they are person who, by the way, just 2 years older than me, 31 years old. Maybe, no, 30. He was 30, literally a year older than me, passed away. Um, and in my mind, I was like, I'm living till I'm 108. So to hear somebody so close in age, so close in heart to me, pass away, I really loved him. I really, really loved him. And I really admired him. And I spent days after his passing rewatching all of his content. He made travel vlogs. He made and like with really good cameras too. He made all kinds of like music, and he made all kinds of like he had, oh my gosh, how many YouTube channels does this guy have? He had like 6. And each one was for a different kind of thing. And then he had all his music on Apple Music too, maybe on Spotify. I'm not on Spotify. Um, And I remember just watching this content over and over and listening to his songs over and over. And I had all these years and years of photos we'd sent each other and messages and voice notes. Hey, here's a song I'm working on. What do you think? What do you think about this? Hey, I just have the urge to sing this Ed Sheeran song for you. And I'd be like, wow, you are so good. You should go on American Idol. And he'd be like, thank you. um, yeah, I've never thought of myself dying because I've convinced myself that I'm living forever. So having this friend pass away who is so close in age and so close in heart, it's made me really think, why do I put on this persona? I I had this idea that like I don't want to know what I'm up to unless they hear it from me themselves, right? I don't want people to know what I'm doing for work. I don't want people to know where I'm living. Like, I'll let you know. If they were supposed to know, I would let them know, you know? And I had this whole thing about like I'm gonna be incredibly mysterious online. Like, you don't need to know anything about me. And that was the moment where I was kind of like, I want to be known for who I am. And they can judge me for that, but they can also better love me for that. You're going to love me for who I am and not this like made up version that you maybe have seen on Instagram. I don't know. On TikTok. Like, and that really changed how I showed up for my YouTube. Because at that point in the year, I was already creating content, and then it switched to this is just me healing. This is me documenting my life. I'm not creating content anymore. I'm documenting it. Like I'm going to look back at this one day and I'm going to be like, man, to be 29 again and living in Michigan. And now here I am, 30 years old and living somewhere else, hopefully. But that really changed how I showed up for myself. And I hate that I do that. I hate that I have to lose something in order to appreciate it more. I had to lose a friend in order to start showing up as myself again. I had to lose all this weight to feel confident in my body again. And then when I gained it all back, I was like, man, I really should have appreciated it that time, you know? I had to lose communication and that friendship and love I had with a sibling who had did me wrong in order to appreciate the love and friendships I have in other siblings. Like, I didn't have to do any of those things, but in my mind, that's how it worked out. So is this episode just a whole trauma dump? Sure, we'll call it that. I think there's power in sharing. I think the more we share vulnerably and honestly, the more we make it okay for other people to share. The more we make it less taboo to be like, oh, don't talk about goals, like, don't talk about this. I want to, but also I deserve to be loved and cared for and seen as my most authentic self. I'm deserving of that. So are you. So is everyone. How different would the world be if everyone felt like they were enough, right? That's interesting to think about. So thank you for being here and listening and witnessing. You can find me on YouTube. Obviously, if you're watching this, the Girl Dharma podcast is on YouTube. Girl Dharma podcast is also available for your listening pleasure on Apple Podcasts and maybe Spotify soon. I'll have to figure that out. My friend Riley was like, Apple Podcasts today, tomorrow Spotify. I don't know how to do that. I only use Apple Podcasts, so that's the only reason it's on here, even. Um, And if you want to see more content from me and the things I film on my camcorder, sometimes webcam diaries, or sometimes just like clips from my iPhone, how I document my life, even, I post daily on my other YouTube channel. It's called I Bought a Journal. Uh, it's my pride and joy in my life. Not really. I don't know why I said that. But it is a very it is a very helpful tool in me being okay being seen. Um, and realizing that whatever I choose to post is enough, And I've been posting every day, and my goal is to post every day for a year. And so I've been posting every day, and today, oh, actually, this week, I'll hit day 150 of daily consecutive videos, and that's pretty crazy to me. And I'm proud of that too. I just have so much to be proud of about myself and for myself, and that feels good. Feeling a little empty-headed, emptied out. I've given it all up right now today in this episode, in this supposedly filler episode. It's definitely filled with a lot of emotions. Love you. Talk soon. Bye.